This is Wretched Radio with Todd Friel.
Got something that might help you out when you are evangelizing and you hear the old objection. Hey, what about all the evil in the world? That proves God doesn't exist. Or does it? This is Wretched Radio from thelife.com. The destruction of the Canaanites. Scenario. What if there were a culture where human sacrifices were normal? And in a sense they are, aren't they, with abortion? The human sacrifices for our convenience. I was thinking about the argument that we sometimes use in the pro-life movement. Why is it that we have laws protecting bald eagle eggs, but not human eggs, if you will? Why is that? Little inconsistent. Because you recognize that a bald eagle is going to become a bald eagle from an egg to a branch, sitting on a perch or in an eggshell. It's a bald eagle. Why don't you want to kill that fertilized egg? Because inside of it is a bald eagle, which you esteem to be precious. And that's why I was thinking about it, because it's still the same thing as a person deciding to take the life of a child. It is because of our preference. What is it that we desire? From what do we receive the most benefit? We have made a decision as a culture that we value bald eagle eggs because we love bald eagles. Similarly, as a society, we've said we don't value human life. Therefore, we don't value what is in the womb of a pregnant woman. Either one is the same. The big person, based on their needs, their desires, making a determination of what we want and who we're going to let live or not. Both issues are the same, whether it's bald eagle or babies. It's about being a bully. It is about the big people making the decision. Imagine a society where human sacrifices were normal. Not limited to the occasional sacrifice at a local temple, but on the commonplace level of parents and children. At their house. Hey, Bob, what are you going to do today? Well, when I'm done mowing the lawn, I'm going to sacrifice one of my kids. Okay, so you're going to cut your grass and then kill one of your kids. Yeah. What are you doing? I'm going to watch a game and then sacrifice one of my children. Busy weekend. That's what we're talking about here. And what if the same society had abandoned all sexual restraint? We're getting there. Practicing sex between parents and children. We're getting there. Between siblings and between people and animals. Imagine a culture like that. You're observing it. You're seeing it. And what if justice became virtually non-existent and evil and corruption were the rule? How would you see that culture? If it were in your power to stop that gratuitously evil society, question, would you do it? In other words, you're God. You have power to determine if a society continues existing or snuffing it out. And you see a culture that is gratuitously evil to the point of sacrificing their own children, killing them as they see fit, even as a sacrifice to appease you, making it even worse. Sexually, it's totally debauched, not just behind closed doors, but it's out in the front lawn. It's on the buses, it's in the streets, it's on the TV, it's everywhere. And it is rampant. There's little or no curbing of it, and there's no justice. You kill somebody, no problem. You molest somebody, no problem. Would you stop it? Or would you just let the evil and injustice and suffering spread like a disease, resulting in more evil? Here's another question. Is it possible that a perfectly good, all-powerful, and all-knowing God requires the destruction of a society if it becomes sufficiently evil? Could God ever do such a thing? Can we ever imagine a society that is so debauched that we would say, yeah, it's right for God to wipe that out? Well, if you would consider doing it, and I think that you would, doesn't God have the right to do it? So now the question is, what was the situation? What was the status of the Canaanite culture? 400 years before the destruction of the Canaanite society, God told Abraham that he could not have that land for another 400 years because the evil of the Canaanites had not yet reached what we'll call the tipping point. 400 years later, when horrific customs, parents offering their kids as human sacrifice, sexual depravity, complete moral breakdown, sex between parents and children, siblings, humans, animals, bestiality, were being practiced by the culture in general, God ordered then the Israelites to destroy the Canaanites. When people say, how could God wipe out an entire, that's just mean on his part. That's evil of God. No, it's not. That was the goodness of God and the patience of God. He waited 400 years and they never relented. And God said the same thing would happen to Israel when their culture became gratuitously evil, which came to pass, by the way, in the Babylonian annihilation of Israel 700 years later. That God, after a while, says, I got enough. And that doesn't mean that God is cruel for wiping out a nation. It means that he's actually good because he hates evil that much. More from The Life, Why Evil and Injustice Point to the Existence of God. He's using a theologian here that is a little bit controversial, so I won't say his name. We'll just lift the material. Just as it would be absurd to complain about a high crime rate if there were no laws in existence, you shouldn't be complaining about evil in the world if, in fact, there's no standard of beauty and goodness to violate. Quote, my argument against God, wrote this theologian, was that the universe seems so cruel and unjust. How could evil exist and a good and loving God exist at the same time? But how did I receive this idea of just and unjust? A man does not call a line a crooked line, or crooked rather, unless he has some idea of a straight line. What was I comparing this universe with when I called it unjust? I could have given up my idea of justice by saying it was nothing but a private idea of my own. But if I did that, my argument against God collapsed. So this was an unbeliever who was warring against God, holding on to his atheism by saying, because evil exists, God can't. So if he realized, wait a second, evil can't exist unless God does, he would undermine his own argument, his own polemic against the existence of God. The argument, God can exist if evil exists, depends on saying that there really is something unjust, not that it doesn't please my fancy. Thus, in the very act of trying to prove that God did not exist, I found I was forced to assume that one part of reality, my idea of justice, was full of sense. The next time somebody says to you, God was really cruel, he shouldn't have wiped out those Canaanites, you can remind them of the patience of God and unrestrained evil, and that it is a just God that puts an end to unbridled evil. When they say to you, there's too much evil in this world for God to exist, you can remind them that by simply acknowledging that there is evil, you're acknowledging that God must exist. Their argument against the existence of God is undermined by their argument against the existence of God. Back to this theologian. The moment you say that one set of moral ideas can be better than another, you are in fact measuring them both by a standard and saying that one of them conforms to that standard more nearly than the other. Comparing them both with some real morality, admitting there is such a thing as real right, independent of what people think, and that some people's ideas get nearer to that real right than others. Moral systems, because we recognize some are better than others, tells us there must be a perfect moral system. If we recognize some behavior is closer to good than others, we are therefore acknowledging there is a perfect standard of goodness. That's why when somebody says to you, hey, I don't think God exists because evil exists, you can simply congratulate them for acknowledging God exists. And that is, it's an increasing challenge. I get that. Our world is so far away from God in their thinking right now. Their minds are so darkened. But if you can say to somebody, would you agree that there is absolute evil in the world and that no setting and no societal vote can make it not evil? Can we agree on that? And when they say yes, and they will ultimately have to, congratulate them for acknowledging the existence of God. How far have you taken them, however? You have not converted them. You have simply demonstrated that there is some sort of theistic system by using the transcendental argument for the existence of God. If there is morality, there is a moral lawgiver. Now the question becomes, who is it? That is when you can present the law and the gospel of Jesus Christ. And so the next time somebody brings up to you the objection, God doesn't exist because of evil, you can use their argument to demonstrate that God, not that God doesn't exist, but that he does exist, but don't stop there in your aha moment. Use the law to bring about the knowledge of sin against that God, and then introduce them to the God who is the perfect standard of morality, and who is the one who will punish people for not matching that standard, and who is the one who has sent his son to die for us because we cannot meet that standard. Don't be afraid at the argument against the existence of God because of evil. Until tomorrow, go serve your king.
Behold a world without Wretched. Please become a gospel partner